Hey guys, and welcome to the FitPro Social with me, David Kyle.
And me, Ash Burley.
Stop. Let's start again. Your mic is on mute.
Shall we try that again?
Do you want to start all over again? Or
we can go from here, can't we? It's always funny when those things happen. So first of all, I'm going to say good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. For some reason, my microphone was on mute randomly. Not sure how that happened. But welcome to this week's episode of the FitPro Social. I did mention before, we had a bit of a hiatus for the past few weeks. I've been away on holiday, Dave's been away on holiday, had some kind of time off, and then we're getting right back into it again. And we're back with this week's episode, which is all about, are your priorities costing you profits in your business? And this has kind of come around from a lot of things that me and Dave do within we have our mastermind clients, we have people we work with all the time, we have calls with them every single week. And these are things that kind of pop up. And we like to talk about those in here because, if our clients are talking about it and these are things that come up in conversation, then I'm sure there's plenty of people listening to this who have the same kind of issues and barriers. And I want to dig into that a little bit today, talk about where your priorities are actually lying. If you find yourself that you're running out of time all the time, you feel like you can't get anything done, we're probably going to dig into why that is and what you can do about it. But before that, I'm going to say a big hello to Dave. Say, how you doing, mate? You good?
good morning, everybody. I hope you're doing okay. Yeah, the priority things is such a unique one because we all know what we need to do. And then remember, like, you need to post on Facebook every single day type of thing or whatever like that. And then you get back after a long day because you've been coaching since 6 o'clock in the morning and you're like, oh, I still need to edit that video. I still need to do that social media post. And you think, oh, I'll just do it tomorrow. I'm so tired now. I just need food. My feet are killing because I've been all day and I've jumped in one or two of the sessions. I just need to sleep. Yeah. And then that day has been and gone. And that's the social media post missed. That's the audience not being engaged with. That's that confidence or trust drop by people that are watching. And you're just missing out on so much just because we're not prioritizing the key movers, really.
Yeah, 100%. I think the other thing I find really interesting about this topic is I think a lot of the time it's down to us not prioritizing all aspects of our lives. I think that's something we need to get into our minds as business owners. I think when you're employed, it's very easy to go, right, I go to work, I've got a job to do, I go and do that particular job, I get paid and I come home. So you have two very distinct parts of your life. You have your home life and you have your work life. I think when you become a business owner, an entrepreneur, FitPro, whatever you want to call it, then that kind of changes both your life and your business. As much as you try as hard as you might to keep them separate, they are going to get merged at some point. And to me, one of the first things you'd start to prioritize is what you actually want to do on your life as well, so you can fit it around your business. Because most of the time, what I've noticed tends to happen with a lot of trainers, especially people I've spoke to recently, is that they will get distracted by other things that are going on in their lives, not necessarily the business. And I think that's quite an important thing to deal with first. And I'll give you a perfect example of this. Obviously, for people that know, I work mainly with online trainers. And because of that, a lot of them work at home. And I was speaking to someone the other day, they booked out their entire day and they went and told their family that they booked out their entire day. And what do you think happened? As soon as they realized they was doing they had no sessions on, no clients on, just booked the entire day to get some work done, to focus on getting content created, focus on their marketing plans, everything like that. Then they kept coming in, interrupting them, asking them to do this. Well, you're here at home anyway. Let's go and do this. Let's go and do that. And I think that can sometimes cause a big issue as well. So today I want to talk about, well, hopefully with Dave and you guys and anyone else listening as well, just start talking about like how you can prioritize things at home, how you can let people know, how you can have the right kind of systems in your business to help you prioritize things properly, what you should be prioritizing, and maybe about how you get curves in businesses, sometimes where you have to sacrifice a few things to get the stuff that you need to get done in order to have a better result later. I think we should talk about that as well. Before we dig into it, I do want to say, if you are watching this and you like what you're hearing, make sure you do like and subscribe. as well. We're streaming to loads of different platforms, so feel free to like, subscribe. If you've got any questions as well, please do let us know in the comments wherever they are around this video. We will try and pick them up and we'll try and cover them here. After all, this is the FitPro Social. It's about being social with you guys. So whether you agree with us, disagree with us, have your own experience, please come and share it with us.
Yeah, I think it's unique because us as fit pros, we're naturally inclined to wanting to do the best for people, and especially then if you're competing yourself, you prioritize your health and fitness to the T to make sure you're perfect for that moment in time, whether you're jumping on stage, whether it's a holiday, whatever that reason is, and because you're prioritizing the outcome, you give everything to it. And I think you've mentioned this a few times before, Ash, that we often look at as our fitness business as more of a hobby, more as an enjoyment thing. We're not prioritizing it as the thing that's going to make us the money. Like this is technically your full-time job. This is the thing that you need to take seriously. If you start slipping while working at Tesco's or something, they're going to sack you. If you turn up late or you forget to do something or you're not on it that day, you're going to fail your KPIs at that particular job and they're going to get rid of you. But being self-employed, we kind of let ourselves off. And like I've definitely been there and done it where I've just let myself off where, oh, you know what? No one's going to shout at me. I'll do it tomorrow or I'll do it next week or I'll wait a month because I'm unsackable. But technically, you are sackable because if you don't do it, you don't earn the money, which means you can't pay your staff or your bills, or you have people come chasing after you then for the finances, which then you're in trouble. So the priorities of the tasks that are going to make the biggest difference is one of the big factors that we definitely need to talk about today.
Yeah, 100%. I find it quite interesting. You mentioned there about how a lot of fit pros they'll have certain outcomes and they'll work towards those outcomes. And when they do work towards that, you think about if you want to go on stage for something or you want to go get a very particular result, you're leaning down or something. What you tend to do is you set that goal that you want, and then you set a number of different targets or KPIs, if you like, in order to go and reach that goal. And then once you do that, you put together a plan or a system in order to help you achieve that. And then you start building habits around that particular system to help it work consistently. And when you do that, what you do is you make those habits part of your day to day. You will do them regardless because this target, this outcome you want is so, so important to you. And sometimes when you do that, you will do it for a period of time and you might make sacrifices in certain areas to hit this really good target that you want to get. And then sometimes after that target, it might slow down because your target might change. You might not need to do this particular thing now. So your habits and stuff will change. Your systems will start to change. We know how to do this because most fit pros have done this at some point in their lives, probably in their fitness career or anything like that. Business isn't really that much difference. You set yourself your goals. You then work out the targets you need to hit in order to go and achieve those goals. You then build the systems to help you achieve those targets. And then you create the habits to make sure those systems are working correctly. There's no real difference. And I think if you can apply that same mentality to your business, you'll start to see some big changes happening.
Yeah, 'cause like you were saying there, where you decide that you're going to work from home today or work from a family member's house, and then they think they have unlimited access to you throughout the day. If we take it back to that competing element of it, when we're competing and we're following this really rigid program that either you've created or you've got someone to create for you, when a friend says, you fancy going to the pub or you fancy coming out tonight or you fancy coming for a meal to this place, and you think, well, that's going to massively affect my macros. That's massively going to put me in a deficit, or that's massively going to affect some part of it. I can't wait. I can't wake up tomorrow because I have a slight hangover, which will affect so much more. Then you instantly say no because you're following this program. And this has to be the same. It's almost like we have non-negotiables in our business that have to be ticked off either daily, weekly, quarterly, monthly, every half a year, whatever it is, you've got these non-negotiables.
And I think as well, I think you kind of hit it nail on the head there. I think sometimes when we go into business, especially if we've never done this before and we're new to it, or maybe you're at the point now where you're running a business and you feel like you're struggling a little bit, like not sure what you need to do that particular day, that particular week, and so on. I think that's where half the problem lies. I think because you don't have the clarity there, you don't have those non-negotiables that Dave was talking about. I think because you don't have them there, sometimes it's easy to procrastinate because you're not sure what to go and do. So when someone distracts you from doing something, you're probably just going to go and say yes to it because you don't have those non-negotiables. You don't have those processes there because you don't really know what you need to be doing on that particular day. So it's not a priority for you. I think that has a lot to do with that being pulled off to different places all the time.
I think sometimes also it's overwhelm, like think back maybe when we first got started as a FitPro and we just qualified, and it was like, oh, I need to write my first couple of session plans, and you kind of like delay and delay and delay because you're just a little bit cautious about, oh, what if I write this plan wrong, or this is going to be much harder. It's going to be much harder than I expect it to
Mhm.
be. Yeah, 5 or 6 years down the line now, you know what I mean? You could write a month's worth of session plans in like 20 minutes because you understand how the structure works. You know how long it takes people to do a certain exercise. You know how long it takes to cover this part of a session and everything. And it just becomes streamlined. So if you're kind of like in this polarized position where part of your task is you have to start 10 conversations every day on Facebook, for example. And now it's difficult to do. What happens if people say no? What happens if I get bad replies and everything? Honestly, do this for 2 or 3 weeks. And then you'll be kicking yourself. Oh my God, why was I in that such a bad position mentally wise to do this when now it's super easy to do? So I think that's also a big factor. It's not that people don't want to do it. They know they need to do it, but they're kind of stuck and they're afraid of doing it in
Mm.
case they do it wrong or something. So, and that's when they then start deviating and you think, you know what, did I actually clean up after I made breakfast? Or are all my
Yeah.
protein shakers clean? And then you start going off your tasks, and before you know it, then your day goes beyond it, and you're just like, oh, I still haven't done my lead gen tasks or
Mhm.
my accountancy tasks or my client check-in tasks or whatever it's going to be.
I think that's such a cool example you've given there. And I think I'm sure you see it all the time. And I see it all the time, especially when it comes to some of the lead generation stuff. If you're doing things that you maybe are not sure what the outcome's going to be, you can be a little bit anxious about it. Like Dave said there a minute ago, they might say no, they might not reply to you. You might think I sent 10 these messages and they might not get back to us, or I might run ads and spend all this money and I might not get the result yet. So wanting to tweak it. Like, because there's some unknowns, especially when you first start doing this, it's very easy to feel a bit anxious about that whole thing. And when you feel anxious about that whole thing, you then start to procrastinate and doing other things. And that could be doing stuff around the house. But I'm sure there's many people who listen to this that's decided one day, I need to go and get my logo sorted before I get this done. I need to go and have this looking amazing and pretty before I get this done. I need to go and write this 20-page ebook first before I go and get this done. I think you're doing there is doing the things that you know are comfortable for you to go and do, to procrastinate over the things that you know you need to go and do. And to me, that's why these systems and processes, these non-negotiables are so important. Because I think if you can come up with what those non-negotiables are and you can pop them in your diary, schedule them in for the day, and put them in a place where you know you're going to get it done without any issues. And that might be different for different people. Like for me, for example, I know how I work. I know if I've got things to do later in the day that I don't really enjoy doing, or I know if I've got calls maybe late in the day that I think will distract me from other work I need to get done, my productivity is not as high because it's always there. I'm not kind of clock watching all the time or thinking about
Yeah.
it. So if it's something I don't like doing, guess what I do? I do it first thing. So I get up, my daily rounds, that's what I call them. So I did have something different, call them non-negotiables. I just call them daily rounds. These are things that I do every single day without a doubt in my business. It just gets done. It's literally a tick list of things. And yes, sometimes you might feel overwhelmed by all these different things, but when you have the process and the tick list there, the task is not the task. The task is just doing that tick list, doing those non-negotiables. So I go through them, I do them all. They're done within like half an hour for me. Luckily, sometimes it takes longer, admittedly, but have teams and systems and software that helps us with some of this stuff. But the other side, set it out, get it done, get it out of the way. Almost approach it in a stoic way where you just don't think about it, you just do. So, what was it like? Top Gun Maverick? Don't think, just do. That's what you kind of need to do with these things. And then get on with the rest of your day doing what you need to go and do for the rest of your business. But you know you've got those non-negotiables done in the first place. Is the book about it? Is it Eat That Frog? Is that the book? I think there's a book called Eat That Frog, which is all about that idea. Like get those tasks and things out of the way first thing in the morning, and it's going to make life so much easier.
Yeah, so let's talk about some of them then. So I have it. You obviously have it, which you're explaining about here
Mm.
now. And it doesn't have to be first thing in the morning. Granted, we are both in a very fortunate place that we start our days off doing the non-negotiables. Obviously, when we had the studio and Ash had his studio and we were both coaching back
Couldn't
in the
do that.
day, I wouldn't be getting up at 4 o'clock in the morning to do this. Waking up
No.
at 5:30 was hard enough to get in
Mm,
for the 6:15 session. Trust me, that
mm,
was hard. Yeah.
mm,
So I wouldn't be getting up early to do it. But once those sessions are finished, that's when you get them done. And these non-negotiables have to be actual critical tasks, things that really do move that needle, not um it's hard because you need to quantify each task to make sure it is going to generate the results that you want.
mhm,
So, for example, adding 10 new potential clients on Facebook is technically a non-negotiable task, but can that task be for a different day, or is that the thing that's really going to make you a new sales? Clearing your inbox every single day, is that a key task? Or is that something that can be left to another day? Checking in on your Facebook ads to see if they're performing. Is that a task that needs to be done right now, or does it need to be another day? So you need to kind of write this mega list of everything you need to do and then start categorizing it between super, super important. If I don't do this, the business literally collapses, to maybe this could be done weekly, maybe this could be done monthly, like finances, maybe just spend a couple of hours once every, I don't know, the last Friday of the month going through your finances just to tick everything off and to make sure it's done. So boxing them, categorizing them, put them into buckets so you can try and figure out what needs to
mm,
be done. So then when it comes to your non-negotiable hour, we'll talk about how to make sure you get those tasks done next.
mhm.
But you have this solid hour then where you just get everything done that really is going to move that needle.
Yeah, I think I'm going to be talking more about another book here that's worth looking at for people reading if you're not chance. It's called The One Thing. I can't remember who the author is for it, but it's
You
that
like
basic.
reading, yeah?
Yeah, I mean, who likes reading? It was more
Oh,
listening to an
I
audio book.
hate reading it.
I'll listen to it though. Audio book is what I listen to more. I think I did actually read the wrong thing. One thing. It was a long time ago, and it's the basic concept here is that let's say if you, especially if you're starting out in business, you might have a list of things there. And Dave listed a few things I think, oh shit, that's a lot of stuff. Like I've got to try and do, and it can be. But like Dave said, you have to find the biggest needle movers. And when you first start a business, it's very easy to look at it and feel overwhelmed, like we're talking about earlier on. And when you feel overwhelmed, you then start putting things off. It feels like it's too much and so on. But you don't have to do all those things at once. You have to find the most important needle movers and focus on them first. And then once
Yeah.
you've got those nailed in, you can then look at maybe outsourcing, getting better systems to help you with that, getting software to help you with things. Then you can start looking at the other stuff and then do the same process. And this book, again, I can't remember who the author is, so apologies, whoever it is, but it's called The One Thing. And the whole basic principle is you make a list of things that you want to do, and you look at that and say, what is the one thing on this list that's going to have the biggest impact on my goals at the expense of everything else? So if you can make a list and look at it and say, what's the one thing I could do on this list that at the expense of everything else? So if I did nothing else, what's going to move my business closer to the goals that I want? And then that's the one you're going to do. And then you do the same thing again for the next one and for the next one until you give yourself enough stuff to do that the biggest needle movers that you can get done in that hour or 2 hours or whatever it is you're going to put aside for it. Focus on them, get those nailed in, get them right. Look at where you can systemize it, and then when you get more time, you can add the rest in, add the rest in, and add
Oh,
the rest in.
Ash, wait, someone's just texted me. Oh, Ash, I've just got an email. Oh, Ash, was that someone at the door? Oh, Ash, I think the washing machine's just stopped. Like, how
Like very
many
well.
of us are like in critical tasks
Mm,
and we know we need to do them, but ping. Oh, actually, Ash, give me 2 minutes. Actually, let me just read this text message. Or
yeah.
ping email. Let me just have a look at this email. Oh, did I did I put my clothes away this morning? Let me go and check on that. Like, you're going to have these things pop up and get in your way all the time when we're in this critical time, these non-negotiable periods. And it is definitely one of the hardest things to do is to turn everything off because
Mm,
what happens if a lead comes in, or what happens if someone phones me, what happens if it's an emergency and stuff like that. at the end of the day, it's really a case of getting your stuff done. And the more barriers that you can put in place that are going to stop you from getting these tasks done, these things that are actually going to make a significant difference to your fitness business, the slower you're going to grow your fitness business. So if you are unfortunately addicted to Instagram or TikTok, then that phone needs to be turned upside down, hidden away, turned off, muted, whatever it needs to be to get
Mhm.
it done. You
I call
could
it flight
be
mode.
flight mode.
Yeah, so I put myself in flight
Let's
mode.
call it
If
pro
anyone
mode.
knows, yeah, pro mode out of the way. And it's just like Dave's saying there. Dave will know better than anyone else. Like if I'm doing something that everything's off for me, every notification's off, everything, my phone's off, everything, and I'm focused on that critical task. Because I think, like Dave said, there, you might miss a lead, you might miss whatever, but it's one lead or it's one conversation, or there might be a little bit of an emergency, but really, like, how big of an emergency is it really going to be in that hour? Like, you're not selling kidneys. No one's really going to die if you don't if you don't do something in that hour. So focus on getting those tasks done. Put yourself in that flight mode, if you like, where there's no distractions there. Because what you'll find if you get distractions, it's not just making it more difficult to do stuff and taking you longer. There's something called switching cost. And all switching costs means you're trying to
Yeah.
do one particular job and then you've got to switch to think about something else. So it's not like a 2-second text message or a 1-minute phone call. You're now thinking about something else. Now you've got to get back on task because that 1 minute is now just taking 10 minutes of thinking time. And you're being pulled from pillar to post all the time, thinking, oh, I've got to think about this and think about that. Every time you're doing that, you're making decisions as well. And you're going to get decision fatigue. Your willpower, if you like, will start to fatigue out. So by the time you get to the rest of the day, you cannot be asked to do all the most the priority stuff. So the best thing you can do is what Dave said there, like get those distractions out of the way, focus on those critical tasks, and then do everything else after.
Yeah, it's a tough one because, like, let's say if one of your critical tasks, these non-negotiables, is starting 20 new Facebook conversations every single day. You send the first one, you send the second one, you send the third one, and ping,
Mhm.
number two comes back, and you're like, oh, I just need to. I'll reply to her now. And then you reply, she replies back instantly. Oh, okay. And then you reply back again. And before you know it, that hour's up and you've only sent 3 messages where your task was to send 10 messages because you've done the stats, you know the numbers. 10 messages always turns into 1 guaranteed
Mhm.
client. But
Mhm.
now you've only sent 3 because you interacted with that person. So I wouldn't say it's been an adult about it. It's it's really holding yourself accountable
Mhm.
to getting the work done. You'll
Mhm.
shout at your clients if they lie to you. Like, yeah, they say, "Oh, you know what? My food's been spot on. I've been training
Mhm.
really hard, but I've not lost any weight." And you're like, "Well, he's still drinking wine of an
Mhm.
evening." And she's like, "Yeah, I'm still drinking wine of an evening." And you're like, well, that's your fault. Yeah, we've
Mhm.
talked about don't drink on a weekday evening, yeah, because that's going to massively affect it. So if you're setting these critical tasks, and let's say 10 Facebook messages is part of those non-negotiables, when that person replies, do not reply back until you've got all 10 done. Then
Mhm.
you can reply back and you can do these easy tasks
Mhm.
like when you're sat at us on the sofa when it's the end of the day or something like that. But your non-negotiables, they need to be all ticked off, has to be ticked off in order to then unlock your phone or
Yeah, that's a
unlock
good way
the
of doing
next
it.
thing that you want to do type of thing. Yeah.
That unlock the next level.
Yeah.
So, I think that's such an important point, though. I think when you have to be, I've mentioned this already, you have to be kind of stoic with those things. You need to kind of switch off from it. And that's why I'm really big on systems, procedures, and habits because you can follow them as well just because you've written them. And I think people also think I'm a solopreneur, I'm on my own, I don't do this, I don't need these systems. Like, you do need them, like, because they will help you do stuff. So, for example, if I was doing that message thing there, I would just not, I'd completely utterly ignore anything. My process is not to look at anything else. My process is to send this message to this person and then I go to the next one and go to the next one. And even with our systems here, with our guys, we do things like, for example, we use direct links to profiles. So why have to go onto Facebook, see my notifications, go into our messenger and read it all when I can just have a direct link to the profile that I need to speak to, click it, it takes me straight to it, done. Close, next one, done. Next one, done. Next one, done. So we find ways, and you could do exactly the same thing, find ways to remove those little distractions. And you might think, well, actually, is that really that worth doing? Well, yeah, it is, because you're not now distracted for 10 minutes going back in messages. You've got a direct link that takes you to where you need to go to. They're the kind of things, to me, you can start thinking about. If you find you get distracted, you can find things within your day-to-day and your process that make it easier for you to get those jobs done.
Can you just go back to talk about that part you were talking about a minute ago in regards to the time? The minute you stop one task because you want to do another and it's costing you time. Let's kind of
Yeah,
look
switching
into
costs.
that a little bit more. Yeah.
Yeah, so switching costs, it's actually, I don't know if it's actually called switching costs in actual psychology, but it's an actual thing.
Probably another book on that, isn't there, as well? Yeah.
There is a book on that. I can't remember for life what it's called. I'll find out. I'll see if I can find out what it is. But the whole principle is literally about the idea that if you're doing one task and you get moved to another task, you have to switch your thought process. So you're focused on a very particular thing, especially if it's critical, especially if it takes up a lot of thinking time. You focus on it, and then someone distracts you, and then you go away and do that other task. So that other thing you might get distracted by might be a very small thing, or it might be a very big thing, depending on the size of that thing. Depends on how big that distraction, that cost is going to be, that switching cost is going to be. But once you've done that, you've got to then get back onto that other task. And when you do that, you've got to think, right, it might have only been a few seconds, but I've got to get back into the flow of it again. And I'm sure everyone here has experienced flow before. I mean, how many times have you done something that everything's just going really well, like you've got into that energy, you're moving through it all, and then you get distraction, and you've got to try and get back into that flow again. But the other side of it is that you can also be distracted by whatever else has gone on. So if someone rings up with a particular thing, oh, I've got to think about doing that now. So you're trying to deal with that. Part of your brain's trying to deal with that, while the other part is trying to deal with this task in front of you. So it actually ends up taking you, that 1 minute conversation with some of that 2 minute conversation is probably going to take you roughly around 10 minutes of non-productive work, because yes, you'll be doing things, but it won't be as productive. It will take you longer because of it. And that's the basic principle of switching cost. It's moving that from one to the other. There's the other side of it as well, which is decision fatigue, which is similar to that. We can talk about that in a minute if you want to.
Yeah, it's huge, because it's not the flow, and like you'd think it'd be so easy. Like I'm writing this presentation because I've got a big workshop coming up, and this workshop guarantees me 20 new leads, and I know from those 20 new leads I'm going to have 2 people turn up. So I've got to write this really important presentation, and I'm in the flow now. I've got the first 5 or 6 slides done, and it's going really well. And then ding, the doorbell goes, and you're just like, oh. So you go to the doorbell, you answer the door, you get the parcel, and then you're just like, you know what, I'm a bit thirsty here, so I'll make myself a cup of tea. So 5 minutes has gone. You've gone to there, you've made yourself a cup of tea, and then you come back and you're just like, okay, where was I up to with this presentation now? And that's where you start this timer, because you're just like, oh yeah, where was I up to? And then
Yeah.
you start reading through the presentation, and you're just like, oh, yeah, I think that's where I was up to. Oh, let me do some more research on that. And then that flow that we talked about at the start has gone, and it might take you 20 minutes. It might even take you half an hour to get back into that flow. And because that's an extra half an hour, you now check the time and you're like, oh shit, I need to leave in the next 5 to 10 minutes now because I need to get down to the gym. And then that's gone again. So you take half an hour to get back in the flow, but now your time is actually up. Now you're back in the flow because you've lost it. So if you've got these critical tasks, you have to lock yourself away to make sure you get these critical tasks done.
Yeah. And there's a surefire way to know if this happens to people. If you've got critical tasks you've got to get done, they're important, and then somehow you look at the clock and you go, where's my day gone? That's been happening to you. That's a pretty much surefire thing to explain that's what's happened to you. Especially if you feel like you've been distracted and you've lost your day. That's probably exactly what's happened. You've just lost all this time to this switching cost.
So we talked about fear, polarization, and everything as well. That's kind of stopping us from doing it. But I also think, and you might agree or disagree on this, but I think it's because you don't have a clear end goal in mind. And this is something I'm working hard on now with the incubator clients, because when we had the studio initially, we had no end goal. And I'm not talking about the gym's end goal. I'm talking about my own personal end goal. What did I want? Because I know you talk about this all the time, but the gym, your fitness business, is just the car to
Mhm.
get you to where you want to get to.
Mhm.
So you could have a car, your car could be working in Tesco's, your car could be selling stuff on the internet, but you've decided the vehicle that's going to get you to where you personally want to get to is your fitness business.
Mhm.
So this is the priority. And if you don't have a personal goal, this task, this thing that you really want to get to, then you're not going to best utilize this vehicle, this car, your fitness business, because you'll just coast. You'll go from
Mhm.
month to month. You'll go from quarter to quarter. And you'll come to the end of the financial year and your accountant will say, you know what, Dave? Your business hasn't really grown this year at
Mhm.
all. Or Dave, your business has actually lost money this year, and you're just like, what, what, what? How? No, I've been working as hard. How has it dropped? It's because you don't have a personal end goal. That personal end goal could be to buy your dream house or to buy this dream car or whatever it is. But until you know what that dream goal is, you can't calculate and work back what needs to be done to achieve it. So do I need to charge more? Do I need to add more sessions? Do I need to reduce session time? Do I need to increase the capacity in the sessions? You can't make any of those critical decisions until you have your end goal, which then means the key non-negotiable tasks that you have to do every day can easily be dismissed because you can't see how that relates to growing the business. Not growing the business relates to
Mhm.
growing you personally with your financial goals.
Mhm.
So yeah, I know that's quite a long-winded example, but yeah, if you don't have personal targets that you need to hit, then you're never really going to push the gym that hard because why would you?
No, exactly. I mean, like, no matter what business you do, business really is just a tool. That's all it is. It's a tool to allow you to live the life that you want to live. And if it doesn't help you do that, it's an utterly pointless tool. You don't need it. You shouldn't be doing it. There's other things you could do instead. And just like Dave said there, once you truly understand exactly what you want from your life, you can start building your life, how you're going to get there around that. And having your own business is a really good way of doing it because it gives you quite a lot of control. You know, you decide, these are your decisions, it's your business. You can choose how much time you have, how much money you have. Like, don't listen to me or Dave saying you have to earn this amount of money, you have to do this or anything like that. Forget that. Just, you need to understand what you want from your life, what it's going to take to have that life, and then you can start making decisions to get you there. And some of those decisions are going to be harder to do than others because sometimes, like with fitness clients, you know, you have everyone here's got fitness clients. Every fitness client probably comes from, I want to lose some weight, I want to put some size on. We know that's not the main goal. So we find the main goal and then we work backwards from it. And in the early days, it's hard. It's hard. There's sacrifice, there's pain, there's learning curves, there's all sorts. And then as the systems get in place, things get a little bit better, but you still have your goals and you fight through those ups and downs, that periodization that you kind of go through. And because you have these clear goals in mind, you know exactly the system you need to get there. You know the KPIs, you know when you're not hitting them, how to go and adjust them because you know what your target's going to get to. And when times do get hard, because you know you're doing this for a much bigger reason for your life, you will fight through those hard times. You will make those hard decisions. And I think it's such such an important thing to get right from the start.
Yeah.
Sorry, passionate about
No,
that.
no, it is a tough one. It is one of those things that unless you have that end goal, and obviously your end goal doesn't have to be the dream holiday or anything. You just have to know what you want. You might have got to a place now and like fantastic, you've got 2 or 3 studios and they're all doing really well. But to make sure that doesn't slip, you need to have those goals in place. What is that goal? Is it to maintain your salary? So if it's to make sure that salary, then you know KPIs for the studio and gyms can't drop below a certain amount because if they do, your salary goes or your salary drops. So then you know then you've got those clear numbers to aim for. Then you can work on the business to make sure those numbers don't drop. And if they do, what changes need to happen because you know why it's working, yeah, or it's not
Yeah,
working.
that's cool. That'd be a good topic, I think, for another podcast. I think we should talk a bit about that, the cash flow numbers and how that affects and paying yourself and stuff. I think that'd be a cool topic to talk about one day, maybe next week.
So, like Ash said at the start, the FitPro Social is all about being social. If you agree or disagree with what we have to say, do let us know. If you've got different thoughts or different views on this type of stuff, let us know as well. And if you'd love to come on the podcast and talk to us or have an argument with us or agree with us or whatever it is, then this is what the FitPro Social is about. It's about bringing things to light that people are not confident to talk about, but also sharing people's ideas and thoughts around key topics to really help you develop your fitness business.
Nice.
Yeah.
Sorry, I thought you were going to put the thing on
No.
there. Cool. I think one thing I wouldn't mind talking about just quickly as well is consequences. I think this is an important thing to talk about when it comes to prioritizing stuff. Because we've talked a lot about like, you have to get this done, you have to go and get that done. But we've also talked about the idea that, you know, you always think to yourself, it's your business, you don't have to go and do it. And both are right. It is your business. You don't have to go and do that. But when you don't do those things, there are consequences, always consequences from it.
Yeah.
So you need to decide whether those consequences are acceptable, whether you want to do something or not. The bigger the consequence, then the less likely it will be acceptable for you to not do those particular things. But there's nothing particularly wrong with that. And it comes back to what Dave was talking about as well when it comes to your goals and stuff, because there are times they think, right, I'm going to take a back step here because I can. But you know, by doing that, maybe your sales are going to drop. Maybe you're going to have to work harder later on to get your time back. Maybe something might suffer elsewhere inside the business. So there's nothing particularly wrong with doing that. But all you need to understand is that whenever you do that, there's definitely going to be a consequence. And to truly understand those consequences, like Dave was saying, you need to understand what your own goals are and how that's going to affect things on there. And the problem is as well, if you do too much of those things, those consequences get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger and become a bigger problem. Just like with your fitness clients, it doesn't matter sometimes if they're going to take maybe a day or two off from their diet. Like theoretically, in the long term, it can deal with it, but there's going to be consequences from it. But if you take a week off, 2 weeks off, a month off, 3 months off from not doing those daily habits, then the consequences are much bigger and much harder to go and fix. Exactly the same thing happens with your business. So I think consequences are an important thing to maybe look at as well. And it will help you sometimes when it comes to doing the stuff that maybe you don't necessarily want to go and do, because you realize the consequence of not doing that, like Dave said there, you don't do those 10 messages, that's one sale missed. That might be, if your lifetime value of a client's $5,000 or something, there's $5,000 not in your back pocket. That's simple. That's your consequence for not doing it on that day. And that's the things you've got to start thinking about.
At the end of the day, it's your business and your life. We're simply just trying to highlight the key aspects of having non-negotiables, because once you've got them in place, it's going to make your life so much easier, your business so much easier to run, more enjoyable, and so much more. Like we said, if you have thoughts on this or any other topics, do let us know in the comments or do reach out. But from me, Ash, it was great talking to you as always.
Yeah, you too. It's always nice to actually catch up and get back onto these things again. So yeah, always a pleasure.
We'll speak to you all next week, hopefully. Goodbye.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us on this week's episode of the FitPro Social. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss out on future episodes.